Today, not long to go. We prefer if you wait though until the end of the daily politics before you switch over. Not much happened in the first 15 minutes. So we are now joined to discuss that by Nigel Farage, who's joined us down the line. He joins us actually, I think, from Brussels. And by Jamie Reid here in Liverpool, the Labour MP for Copeland. You were tweeting during the live debate as well. Nigel Farage, let me come to you first. Your man, Mr. Trump, he didn't quite sparkle enough last night, did he?
I think what we saw was unsurprising. Hillary, very much a professional politician, trained, scripted, good poise, no question about that, but very little warmth. And Donald Trump, the non-professional politician who perhaps not used to this format, did in the early part, I thought, the first third of the debate on the economics, put out some really good positive stuff. Overall, the commentators will say it was Hillary that edged it marginally. The real question is, did that debate last night change the minds of any undecided voters? And I would say no. I would say in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, we will not remember a single exchange from last night's debate, and we've got Louisiana and Vegas to come.
Jamie Reid, how do you think Hillary Clinton did?
I thought she was excellent last night. I thought going into the debate, she was clearly characterised as being almost sterile, difficult to like, robotic. And I think she came across in a very warm, I have to say confident, even, dare I say it, at times fairly sassy way last night.
These emails continue to haunt her, don't they, though? And Donald Trump just threw it at, when they were arguing about his tax return, he just threw the emails. Indeed, he said, I'll show you my tax return if you show me the 30,000 deleted emails.
Yeah, absolutely.
They still haunt her, don't they?
They do haunt her. That's the nature of, I think, American politics in particular. Both candidates have long histories in and outside of politics. I do have to say, though, in terms of shifting the needle, I think Donald Trump's tax returns have the potential, I think, to shift the needle far more than any emails.
Well, let me come on to that, Nigel Farage, and Donald Trump's tax returns, because it was suggested last night in the debate, which in a sense was a sort of delicious prospect, that he didn't deny that the reason he's not publishing his tax returns is that he doesn't pay any federal income tax, that he may be so overloaded with debt, it's all tax deductible in America, that he doesn't pay any. And indeed, he didn't deny that. He just said, when it was proffered, he said that would make me smart. Not really credible for a multi-billionaire to pay no federal tax, is it?
Well, as you say, a completely different tax system, completely different tax culture, but you're right. It is a question, I think, for the undecideds that he's going to need to answer. I would suggest what he needs to do is to point out, age 70, how much tax he's paid over the course of the last 50 years, not what he paid last year. And as you say, companies have up years, down years, borrowings. He needs to answer back. And that was the one point I thought that Hillary made that did put him on the back foot, as indeed the email question she can't answer. I think he needs to come up with an answer to that, to say, look, I've paid my fair share over half a century.
You're the only British politician, I think, that has shared a platform with him in this particular presidential round. So are you telling him today that he should publish some tax returns? Is that your advice?
No, my advice is he needs to deal with that question that Hillary put last night. And as I say, he can show...
Except showing us the tax return.
Well, he has said very clearly, I will show you mine if you will show me yours. So if Hillary publishes the emails,
she's already published her tax returns, Mr. Farage.
Yeah.
Both her and Bill Clinton have published their tax returns.
Yeah, but the point that was made is that there is still this incredible secrecy around these emails. Look, these arguments, Andrew, these arguments will go back and forth. I think what is more interesting is when we get to Louisiana, then the debate will move on to immigration, open borders and terrorism, and that, I think, either way, will probably be the game changer for this presidential election.
Isn't one of them, not one, but perhaps Mrs. Clinton's biggest problem is that in an America which is increasingly, you've been in Mississippi, I think, recently, and so you will know there is an anti-establishment mood, Jamie Reid, in America. There's also an anti-politician mood in America as well. And there's an anti-continuity. And Mrs. Clinton represents the establishment, the political establishment and continuity.
I think that's true. I think I would expect to see those charges levelled against the Clinton campaign from now until polling day in November. But where Nigel's completely wrong, and I think this feeds in to the point that you're making, Andrew, is that it's absolutely de rigueur that every presidential candidate submits their tax return to the American people to see. And also, if we're really saying, in the midst of the worst economic crash since the General Depression, the Great Depression, that it's all right for a US presidential candidate not to pay taxes in that period, well, I think that destroys all of the charges about not wanting a continuity candidate, not wanting politics as usual, because I think that really does demonstrate a cavalier attitude towards public office.
Did you believe Mr. Trump, Nigel Farage, when he claimed that he had what's known as the birther controversy in America, this argument over whether Mr. Obama was actually born in America? Now, I say argument, but of course the facts are pretty much overwhelming, if not really unanimous, that of course he was born in America. But Mr. Trump kept that alive for 5 years. And I've seen endless videotape of him questioning whether Mr. Obama was worried. And wasn't that really a dangerous thing to do, not just because of the absence of evidence, but the fact that this was the first black president? And to question whether he was born in the United States was, as Mrs. Clinton said last night, effectively a racist meme. It was a racist line of attack.
Well, when it comes to racist lines of attack against President Obama, I suggest people look at Hillary's campaign team and what was said and done back in 2008. So I think this, in the end, this sort of stuff becomes a score draw. Look, if you get things wrong...
Well, hold on. Hillary Clinton never got involved in that. Some of her campaign team may have. Sidney Blumenthal was one name, but she never endorsed it. She never used it. And she never carried on for the next 5 years saying that there was still an argument about this.
Well, as I've learnt myself, if employees or people in your campaign team say and do inappropriate things, what you have to do is act, and there was no evidence that she did. Look, on this birther stuff, all right, clearly Trump was wrong, and so the dangerous thing for him would have been to maintain that line. He's changed his position on it utterly sensibly. Look, ultimately, these arguments about the failings, the personal failings of either candidate will go back and forth. Ultimately, this is about, do you want to vote for the establishment? Do you want to vote for business as usual? Or do you want to vote for change? That is what this election is all about. And I don't think last night, frankly, moved us forward on that.
All right. Mr. Farage and then Mr. Reid, after last night, Mr. Farage, do you still think Mr. Trump's going to win?
Mr. Trump's voters are a bit like Brexit voters. They believe in it, they have enthusiasm, they have passion. He's the one with momentum. I still think he is going to win.
Jamie Reid?
I think when we next see Nigel try to make his latest comeback, he's going to have to explain why it is he's tried to defend Donald Trump's racism. But I do think this is going to be a tight political contest. It's going to be very tight. I do expect Hillary to win, but I think it could very well be tighter than many people expect.
All right, tight race, but you both expect your person to win, and I just heard Nigel Farage saying that Donald Trump had the backing of momentum. So who knew that? There, you learn things on the Daily Politics. Gentlemen, thanks to you both. Hope we get to speak to you again as the US campaign goes on. About 5 weeks to go.
You didn't, frankly, have the balls to put country before party.